Anybody know what the #1 killer in America is? Heart disease, #1 killer. No cheating. #2, anybody know what the #2 killer is? Cancer. It is cancer. #3, anybody know? I've heard different things. Diabetes was my answer. But, you know, obesity is on its way up with no end in sight. Our children are obese, you know, at a growing rate that's alarming. But, so there's the number 1 2 3 killers. But in doing my research, I have found one that's even more than that. And I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to share with you what the #1 killer in America is, which to me shocked me. So I'll share that with you. So how do you, you know, I call those 3 killers a train wreck, you know? So how do you not get hit by a train? That is the question for you. How do you miss getting hit by a train? Cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Stay off the tracks, that's right. And for me, the further away from the tracks I can get, the better I feel, the more comfortable I am. So I'm going to tell you guys how to get off the tracks, how to stay off the tracks, and never, ever have to deal with that. So it all began with me. I had a lot of health problems. I was sick a lot as a kid. Hated it. Sick all the time. And my dad had a fruit stand. And he sold, you know, like everything, all the good fruits and vegetables, but he also had all the crap. You know, all the junk you can find and junk food, Twinkies, Coke, and all of those things. So, you know, you've heard the term, you are what you eat. So this was me when I was a kid. I was a Twinkie, I was a Coke, and I was a puff of smoke. And that's how I grew up. And needless to say, when I was about, you know, early teens, so I developed asthma. I had asthma a lot. I was sick a lot, low immune system. And actually, Dr. Christopher read my eyes and he goes, so young, so sick. I did have a lot of health problems. But, you know, my mother, she read a book this is back in the 60s, mid-60s. Have anybody heard of Ann Wigmore, Dr. Ann Wigmore? Okay, good. She was a lady that come from Europe, and she was sick a lot, and she decided to go back to what her grandmother taught her as a little girl. And she got onto this thing called wheatgrass. She started growing wheatgrass, and she juiced it and found out it's probably one of the most nutritional best nutritional foods you could find. So my mother reads this book. Guess what she does for me? She's growing wheatgrass for me. And she goes, hey boy, you get over here and you drink this now. You know, I drank it and, oh man, ooh, I couldn't believe it. It, you know, tasted like a cow's breath. But something happened to me. Something happened to me. When I drank that, you know, when you're so sick and if you eat anything good for you, it was almost like a natural high. It was almost euphoric. I'm going, wow, I feel better. I think I feel better. And so she did this. She juiced this for me for quite some time. And, of course, it took a while for me to, you know, quit my little habits. But anyway, so I grew up, still sick a lot and everything. But I met this girl and finally talked her into marrying me. And it took a lot of talking. And so she finally consented, so we got married. And we started having kids. And numero uno kid had health problems. And so that tells you that the old nut doesn't fall too far from the tree. That's the way that it was with us. Yes. And it's almost a lesson to me because, really, how can you have healthy children if the parent isn't healthy? You know, that's a law, kind of. If you have a lot of health problems, how are you going to expect to have healthy, you know, kids? Of course, you know, they talk about heredity a lot. You know, well, I get that problem from my parents and all of this. I'll tell you what's hereditary. It's diet. You know, we eat like our parents ate, and our kids are eating like we eat. And so we're passing down those things, those habits, those traits down to our children. So, you know, number one was sick a lot. Then we had a number two, our daughter, Amy. And she was healthy. I still wonder where that girl come from. I have questions. I still have questions about that. So then our education began when we had twin daughters. We had a set of twin girls. And right off the bat, right out of the chute, these girls were sick. Well, we were used to that because, you know, when our first number one come, if the kid gets sick, what do? You take them to the doctor, puts them on medication. Okay. So we start getting in that rigmarole, the drug cycle. These little girls, they were throwing up all the time. They were pooping all the time, diarrhea. And cherry on the top, like the frosting of the cake, they had respiratory infection a lot. And then we got to the point where if we did not have our babies on prescriptions, they were sick. Then's when, you know, like the light turned on for us. Hello, maybe there's something wrong with our girls. Our girls can't be on medication all the time. This can't be healthy for them. And so we got our brilliant heads together and decided to, maybe we better go to a real doctor. Let's go to a specialist because we think there must be something wrong. So Jan does. We find a doctor up in Orem, Dr. Smith, and I'll let Jan tell you what she did and what happened.
So I said, so what can we do? And tell me, you know, how we can get these babies better. And he said, number one, cystic fibrosis is not curable. There is not a cure for cystic fibrosis. They have a lifespan of somewhere between 18 and 20 years max, but some kids don't live past 6 or 9. It just depends on the severity of the cystic fibrosis that they've got going for them. And then he said, and what we need to do is up the medication. We've got to up those antibiotics. We've got to give them a lot heavier doses. They've got to take it more often. And I want them on something called pig pancreas powder. And he had a couple other medications he wanted me to put them on. I was in such overwhelm, I can't do this. I cannot remember what those other two were. I blacked them out, or blanked them out. But anyway, and he said, not only will they only live to be 18 or 20, they'll probably never, they would never be able to have children, because he said probably they'll never live long enough to get married and have kids, but they'd never have enough help to carry babies. He said, and I said, well, what do we do? He said, you got to keep them in a bubble. You got to keep them away from other kids because they're highly susceptible by any little infection, and I already found out about that. And really, my babies were dying, and we knew it.
It did not make any sense to me whatsoever at all. I'm going, our girls, their immune system, their ability to fight disease is down. It's going down. It's a lot worse now than when we started. The thought of us doing more, it made zero sense to me. This is what we have, as a society, bought in on. Just picture yourself. You're driving down the road in your car, and your thermostat goes on hot. Not a problem. You just pull your car over, you get out, and you lift the hood up. There's a little wire that goes to your thermostat. Snip! The wire. Your thermostat goes back down on cold. There goes your symptoms. Gone. Close the hood, get in your car, and drive away. That's what we bought in on. Never once do they find out, ask, and never once were we asked, what's the cause of this? What could be the cause? What could we do to get to the bottom of this? Never. What they do is they look at a symptom, they read across the chart, they need that drug. That's what we're doing. And so every drug has a side effect, and it did with our girls. They had side effects. I mean, their ability to fight off disease was way, 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 you know, they had none. So, okay, so we didn't know what to do. We were dumbfounded. Really dumb, and we couldn't find any reason to figure out what to do. At this time I worked at a grocery store, and in the produce department, still in the produce business, and it's a big store, and at night, this old guy, Ted Brush, he gets this floor machine, and he starts one end of the store, and by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, when I hit the floor, he's over in the produce department. So this old guy, you know, you push this machine, I don't think the machine pushed him, or he pushed it pulled him, you know. He was kind of half asleep up and down the aisles. Really a funny old guy. But anyway, I got acquainted with this guy and got to become friends with him. And I had a lot on my mind, needless to say, not knowing what to do. Anyway, I was telling him our situation, our dilemma, and he goes, Dinley, what are you guys doing tomorrow night? I go, oh, shoot, I don't know, you tell me. I'm open. He goes, I'd like to pick you kids up, and I want you to bring your babies. I got someone I want you to meet. And I go, okay, all right. So sure enough, the next night he picked us up and took us up to Bountiful, and he introduced us to a lady. Her name was Loa Call. And she sat us down, looked at us, looked at her girls, and she said two things that I will never forget. Number one thing that she told me, she says, Dylan and Jan, if you will actually do what I tell you to do, I promise you something. You will never have those babies back to the hospital or the doctor ever again. I promise you. I'm going, whoa, really? And she says, the other thing she said, she says, your answer lies in nature. Boom! I went right back when I was a kid drinking that wheatgrass, back to my wheatgrass days, and I said, okay, tell me more. You know, we bought right into it because, you know, that link I had, that was something that I put in my mouth has something to do with how I feel. How crazy is that, you know? So, she sent us home, unpacking our fridge, unpacking our freezer, unpacking our everything, no white sugar, no white flour, nothing from a can, nothing from a box. Everything was fresh and natural. Basically, she put us on a raw food diet back then. I mean, we have a saying now, if you can't read it, big long words, don't eat it. Read your labels. Whatever you do, read your labels. What you're putting in this temple, should we say? So, so she gets home, we chop it all up, and throw it out there, and they don't want nothing to do with it. You fix what they're going to eat for breakfast. And if they're not that hungry, guess what they get for lunch, right? And if by some reason they're not quite hungry enough to get it for lunch, it's a sure ringer for dinner. And it worked. I have a witness. It worked. It really worked. And so time went on as things progressed. It took us a while, but one big day, for me especially, the throwing up quit. One big day. But even a bigger day, guess what? That was, I don't know, 6 months later, the diarrhea finally quit. Holy heck, what a load off my mind, you know? Have to change those kids? Right. And then then one day, Jan was dragging a comb through their hair, getting them ready to go. And she goes, ah! Come here and look. I come over there. Our girls had oozing sores in their head, in their scalps. Oozing. And we're going, oh, you know, now what have they got? What's, you know, this was big stuff. Hello, Loa, help! Loa did say that I knew it was going to come out of their system somewhere, but I didn't know where. It was the poisons and toxins coming out of their bodies. It came out of their head.